Plant's leaves are turning yellow and how to fix it. There's a specific moment every plant owner dreads. You glance over at a plant that's been looking perfectly healthy for weeks, and suddenly there it is, a yellow leaf, sometimes two or three, seemingly appearing out of nowhere. Panic usually sets in immediately. Is the plant dying? Did you do something wrong? Should you be watering more, watering less, moving it to a different spot entirely? Here's the frustrating truth about yellow leaves. They're one of the most common symptoms in all of houseplant care, and also one of the most misdiagnosed. A single yellow leaf can mean at least half a dozen completely different things, ranging from something completely normal and harmless to a genuine emergency that needs immediate attention, and treating the wrong cause often makes the actual problem significantly worse. In this video, we're going through every major reason a plant's leaves turn yellow, exactly how to tell these causes apart from each other, and precisely what to do to fix each one. So the next time you see yellowing leaves, you'll know immediately what's actually happening, instead of guessing. Let's start with the single most common cause, the one responsible for the vast majority of yellow leaf cases: overwatering. When soil stays consistently wet for extended periods, plant roots become deprived of the oxygen they need to function properly, eventually leading to root damage or root rot. As the roots struggle, the plant can no longer properly absorb and transport nutrients, and yellowing leaves are often one of the very first visible signs of this underlying root stress, usually showing up as a soft pale yellowing that spreads gradually across the leaf. The key identifying detail here is that overwatering-related yellow leaves typically feel soft or mushy rather than crispy, and the soil will feel consistently damp when you check it. The fix is to immediately stop watering and let the soil dry out completely, checking with your finger a couple of inches down before ever watering again, and if the roots feel mushy when you inspect them, trimming away the damaged sections and repotting into fresh, well-draining soil. The second cause, and one people frequently overlook, is actually the opposite problem: underwatering. When a plant consistently doesn't get enough water, it begins conserving resources by sacrificing its older, lower leaves first, letting them yellow and die off in order to redirect limited water and energy toward new growth and overall survival. Unlike overwatering, underwatering-related yellow leaves typically feel dry, crispy, or brittle to the touch, and the soil will feel bone dry well below the surface. The fix here is straightforward. Establish a more consistent watering routine, checking the soil regularly rather than letting the plant go for extended stretches without any water at all, particularly during the active growing season, when the plant is using water more quickly. The third cause is nutrient deficiency, something that becomes more likely the longer a plant has gone without fresh soil or fertilizer. Plants need specific nutrients, particularly nitrogen, to produce and maintain the chlorophyll responsible for their green color. When soil becomes depleted of these nutrients over time, often after a year or more without fertilizing or repotting, older leaves can gradually yellow as the plant redirects its limited nutrient supply toward newer growth. This type of yellowing often starts at the leaf edges or between the veins, creating a somewhat patterned or mottled appearance rather than uniform yellowing across the entire leaf. The fix is to apply a balanced diluted liquid fertilizer during the plant's active growing season, and if the plant hasn't been repotted in over a year or two, consider refreshing the soil entirely, since old depleted soil often can't be fully corrected with fertilizer alone. The fourth cause is too much direct sunlight, which can genuinely scorch leaves in a way that presents as yellowing, rather than the browning most people expect. When a plant that prefers moderate or indirect light gets placed in intense direct sun, particularly during peak afternoon hours, the chlorophyll in the leaves can actually break down from the excess light exposure, causing a bleached yellow appearance, sometimes with visible brown scorch marks in the most exposed areas. This is especially common when a plant is moved to a brighter location without a gradual adjustment period. The fix is to relocate the plant to a spot with bright indirect light rather than harsh direct exposure, and if you do want to move a plant to a sunnier location, do so gradually over a couple of weeks, allowing the plant to slowly acclimate rather than shocking it with sudden intense light. The fifth cause is temperature stress, something that's easy to overlook since it doesn't involve watering or light at all. Sudden temperature swings, cold drafts from a frequently opened door or window, or placement too close to an air conditioning vent or heating register can all cause leaves to yellow as the plant experiences genuine physiological stress from the instability. This type of yellowing often appears somewhat suddenly, affecting multiple leaves around the same time, rather than the gradual older leaf first pattern typical of nutrient or watering issues. The fix is to relocate the plant away from drafty windows, doors, vents, or heating registers, keeping it in a spot with consistent moderate temperature throughout the day and night. The sixth cause is pest infestations, which can cause yellowing as pests damage the plant's cells and interfere with its ability to properly transport water and nutrients through its leaves. Spider mites, aphids, and mealybugs are among the most common culprits, often causing small yellow spots or stippling across leaves before the yellowing spreads more broadly. Closely inspecting the undersides of leaves and along stems will often reveal small insects, webbing, or a sticky residue if pests are the actual cause. The fix is to treat the infestation promptly using an appropriate method, typically wiping leaves down with a mild soap and water solution, or applying a neem oil treatment, and isolating the affected plant from others nearby to prevent the pests from spreading. The seventh cause is simply natural aging, and this is the one case on this list that isn't actually a problem at all. Plants naturally shed their oldest, lowest leaves over time as new growth emerges, and a single yellowing leaf on an otherwise healthy, actively growing plant is very often just part of this completely normal cycle, rather than a sign of any underlying issue. This type of yellowing typically affects only the very oldest leaves, usually near the base of the plant, while the rest of the plant continues looking vibrant and healthy. The fix, if you can even call it that, is simply to trim away the individual aging leaf at its base and continue your normal care routine without making any changes based on this single, isolated leaf. So how do you actually figure out which of these 7 causes is responsible for your specific plant's yellow leaves? Start by checking the soil moisture. If it's consistently wet, overwatering and potential root rot are the most likely culprits. If it's bone dry and has been for a while, underwatering is probably the cause. If the soil moisture seems appropriate and consistent, move on to considering the other factors. Next, look at which leaves are affected and how the yellowing appears. Older, lower leaves yellowing gradually while new growth looks healthy often points toward nutrient deficiency or simply natural aging. Yellowing that appears more suddenly across multiple leaves, especially if it's paired with a recent location change or a cold snap, suggests either sunlight exposure or temperature stress. Yellow spots, stippling, or a mottled pattern, particularly combined with visible pests or webbing, points clearly toward an infestation. Finally, consider recent changes to the plant's care or environment. Did you just move it to a brighter windowsill? Has the weather turned significantly colder? Have you fertilized or repotted in the last year? These contextual clues often narrow down the actual cause far more quickly than examining the yellow leaves alone. Every one of these 7 causes proves the same underlying point. Yellow leaves are a signal, not a mystery, and once you learn to read that signal correctly by checking soil moisture, examining the pattern of affected leaves, and considering recent changes to care or environment, diagnosing the actual problem becomes remarkably straightforward, rather than a source of ongoing anxiety. If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe, because next week we're covering brown leaf tips specifically, another extremely common symptom that gets misdiagnosed just as often as yellow leaves do. See you in the next one. Tittle. 310 popular houseplants that are more dangerous than. You think walk through almost any home with houseplants and you'll likely spot at least one, sometimes